The Dr. Berg Show. Live from the nation's capital, it's time to get healthy, lose weight, and feel great. Call now to speak with Dr. Berg at 866-561-4292. And now, Dr. Eric Berg.
Hey guys, I'm back. It's Friday morning at 9 Eastern Standard Time. I'm here to take your calls. It's been 4 weeks since I've done a live show. Today we're resuming, and I'll be consistently staying in town for a long time. But if you have a question, here's the number, 866-561-4292. It should be down below, but go ahead and give me a call. I want to find out what you want to know. So we're going to take the first call from New York. It's Midjid, I think it's called. Amajid. You're on the line. Go ahead.
It's Amjad.
Amajad. Okay, great. Nice meeting you. You had a question about water fasting, right?
I do. I was wondering if it's compatible with, because what happened was I actually lost close to 50 pounds listening to taking your advice, and also doing water fasting. And I was wondering if I could do water fasting on a Sunday, then do your program, one meal a day, low carb, low sugar, then again back to Tuesday water fasting, Wednesday do your thing. And I was wondering if that's actually a productive way of going about it, or am I just wasting my time?
How much, do you have more weight to lose?
I have about 10 more pounds because I'm at 180 right now, and I think I'm kind of obsessed with losing weight. But I think if I lost 10 more pounds, I would be completely okay with where I am weight-wise, and then I could just, start working out, building muscle, and things like that. Yeah. But like I said, I was at 233 pounds. Now I'm at 180.
Wow. You've lost a lot of weight. I definitely need to see, you need to send in your before and afters. But here's the thing, here's the key point that you need to focus on. Number one, the main point basically is making sure you get all your nutrients. When you do any type of additional fast, in addition, if you're doing one meal a day, the hardest part is getting all your nutrients. So that's a big, huge meal with a tremendous amount of salad. You may need to enhance your eating with supplements, but as long as you're getting your nutrients, you could do it and you feel okay. The way that you know there's a problem, if you start you're feeling weak, you start having problems with sleeping, you start having hair loss, your teeth start falling out. No, I'm just kidding. So all these things you just need to watch because that would be a nutritional deficiency. Vitamin A, for example, is the vision. So you might notice that your vision is getting worse. If that's happening, then you need to maybe add another meal in there just to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients. So that's really the only thing that I would just make sure that you're doing. But if you feel fine, go for it. You should be able to lose the 10 pounds pretty fast.
Well, do you know if it speeds up ketosis, or does it work faster than just a
So your rate or your depth of ketosis, or you're getting into ketosis, really has to do with the reduction of carbohydrates. So if you're actually keeping your carbs below 20 grams, of course, if you're doing intermittent fasting, it's going to be really low, right? So if you combine those two and you keep your carbs real low, that's going to be it's going to be like some serious ketosis. Now, if you want to add something to the mix, just start adding exercise in there, even when you're fasting. If you can handle that without dropping your blood sugars too much, and if you do, just exercise around your meal, then you can just take it to the next level. So you can have the ability to control how much fat burning you're getting into. Like, for example, for myself, I do well if I do 2 meals a day, and then I work out at night. Like, I'll work out at like 7 o'clock. And then what'll happen, I'll wake up in the morning and I just feel like everything just kind of like getting even leaner. So that's one thing you can add to the mix. Sound good?
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for calling. Hey, David, you're from Texas. You had a question, thyroid and supplements. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Thank you, Dr. Berg.
Sure.
Yes, on last Friday, I noticed, which I thought I had a sore throat, but it actually turned out to be a thyroid nodule after they had done an ultrasound, and they said it was like 2 centimeters big. So at that point, I went to my endocrinologist, and he did an ultrasound, and he said, well, your 2 centimeter nodule went to 3.1 centimeters, but what you have is a fluid cyst. And he checked all around, and I guess there's a couple points that talk about cancer, and he says you don't have any of them because you have other nodules on your other side, but they were only like 2 or 4 or 5 millimeters. And so anyhow, he aspirated it, and, went down and everything, and he says, we'll send the blood work or the pathology out, but I'm almost 100% that there's no problem with cancer. But my question onto that is, what would cause something like that to come about, and is it something other than the thyroid that's doing it, and do I need to be taking something else that I'm not taking or add to it? So that's that one question there.
Good. Let me answer that question.
Sure.
A lot of people get cysts in the thyroid, and they get bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. Sometimes people have cysts on the lymph nodes, and they think it's the thyroid, but it's really the lymphatic system, which is completely different. Most of these cysts are iodine deficiencies, because iodine regulates estrogen. So if there's a little bit too much estrogen in your body, you can get cysts or mini tumors throughout the body. So what I would do if I were you, and by the way, all the information that I'm giving you today is educational. Check with your doctor before taking any advice. This is not meant to diagnose you or treat you. Okay, so that being said, I would do a high quality sea kelp from Iceland. I like the Icelandic, and I would consume probably 3 capsules in the morning, and do that for about 3 to 4 weeks. Then go back, go get it assessed, see if it goes down, if they're gone, because especially even on women, and when they get fibrocystic breasts, if they get nodules in the thyroid, iodine is the absolute best remedy for that. But then if we look further, we want to make sure we're not getting any estrogen. So in your diet, you want to make sure it's like there's no estrogen, it's organic. You don't have commercial chicken, for example. There's no soy, GMO, which actually adds more of an estrogenic effect. So those are the things that I would do. Now, let's say, for example, you do that and it doesn't work. Then what you need to look at is there's another cause of cysts, and that would be high levels of estrogen. But I highly doubt that's the case, especially if you've been watching my videos. But some people, especially the cyst, the Baker cyst in the back of the knee, cystic acne, cyst on the back, that can also come from high estrogen. So, and then the third thing would be high levels of cortisol can create cysts. So that could be stress. So these are just things I would look at. But I think with what you're doing, and then the sea kelp, that should resolve it pretty well. It's just usually high estrogen.
Okay, so the sea kelp, because I do take quite a bit of your different products. Now the sea kelp I didn't do, and the cortisol, we had the floods here in Texas, and I was part of that. So maybe that's a coincidence, because it seems like for the last couple of weeks I've been on the high end, and it's so that may have triggered it. So yeah,
that makes sense, because you want to look at what day coincidence, when did it start, what happened just before that. So if there is something like that, then okay, good. But yeah, awesome.
Okay, the second one deals with my wife, and it's a back issue. She has, in the last, happens about a couple times a year, where her back will lock up. I mean, when I say lock up, the muscles just grab her to the point of not releasing. And it's her lower back, and we had an MRI done, and we went to a neurologist surgeon that does those type of surgeries for nerves, and there is no type of nerve problem. He says that her back is basically age-related for the, what she has. She has a little bit of cartilage or, problems at the lower back, but nothing that stands out. And when it locks up, sometimes it puts her down for almost a week, and it just slowly comes back. So I'm trying to find out, because he said, I said, well, why is the pain there then? He says, I don't know, and if I told you, I'd be lying to you. So I'm like, okay. So
Okay.
I figured I'd get a second opinion.
Yeah, let me just give you some data on the back. What you want to do is you want to definitely look up my videos on back pain. There's several things. There's a lot of people that have back pain that don't have any physical pinched nerve or disc problems. They might have some wear and tear, which is kind of interesting because you have people that all of a sudden get back pain but no injury. Like, where did that come from? And that usually is referred pain. Believe it or not, if it's a female, it could be from the uterus or ovary that can refer back into the back, into the spine in the back part. If it's a male, usually it could be prostate referred. You'd be surprised how many people have back pain that's referred from something else. The other thing that I would do is, in one of the videos I have, I show people how to do acupressure from the front, the lower abdomen. If you put your finger on your belly button, that's at the third vertebra. So if you go down 1 inch, we're going down to the second, 2 inches below, down to like the first, or between 2 and 3 inches, you'll get to L5. That's usually where most people have the pain in the very lower back. So if you were to do, like use a massage tool or your hands and massage on the front part of the lower spine right below the belly button, and kind of mirror image where the back pain is and work on those muscles on the front part of the spine, the front part of the abdomen, you're going to relax the back part of the muscles, and especially if it's a knot in your back. So that's the first thing. That should knock out the pain right there. The other thing is doing flexibility, stretching on your hamstrings and the quads. That always helps. And then also get a foam roller. And I actually have a video on this, like something about this round, not big, but just small, and put it in her lower back a little higher up, right about L1, which is higher up in the lower back, and have her lay on that to get that curve back in there. That usually will take care of it as well. There's other things too, like the imbalance of electrolytes can cause muscle spasm in the lower back. But if it's a weak ligament, then you want manganese, but I don't think that's where the thing is. I think it kind of seizes up, usually from maybe some neurological thing or having it being referred. So watch those videos and then let me know how it goes, okay? Thanks for your question, Dave. Hey, Gina, you're from Chicago. You had a question about bottled water.
Yes, hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
So I see these videos on YouTube where people are measuring the pH level of different brands of bottled waters.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, oh, you shouldn't drink this brand, you shouldn't drink that brand, it's too acidic. But then, you should drink your lemon water every day, very beneficial, and that's got to be very acidic. So I'm just really confused on that topic.
Yeah, good question. So you have this opens this can of worms, which I won't get into the pH right now, but I'm just going to tell you, normally spring water, which is a mineral water, comes out alkaline because the minerals, you have calcium and magnesium, which are alkaline. So water from the earth is usually slightly alkaline. Okay, that means it's above 7. 7 is neutral. So because of these minerals. But then all people think that it's really the alkalinity that is what we need, so they have machines that alkalize the water, and then they start raising the pH, and they start thinking everyone's too acidic and blah, blah, blah. Well, the point is that I always like to ask these people, what part of your body are you talking about? Because you have the stomach, for example, that should be between 1 and 3. That's extremely acidic. And you have the lymph and the blood that should be slightly alkaline, but the large bowel should be slightly acidic. So you have all these different pHs. Honestly, I wouldn't worry about the pH. I would just consume high quality water if you want to do a filtered water, and don't even worry about the pH. And I like to do a lot of spring waters. I like Pellegrino, but you can do a spring water and you're going to be fine. Or do filtered water and not even worry about the pH too much. I'm not into the alkalizing water itself because I'll test people, I'll check their pH after they alkalize the water, and their pH is a 9. Now that's like way off the scale. It should be like right about 6, because you want the urine to be slightly acidic to kill bacteria. So when it becomes higher, it becomes a breeding ground for microbes. So you don't want to start to alter your pH with anything. I would just start eating healthy and let your body go into the pH it needs. I like to add lemon and apple cider vinegar to water to make it slightly acidic for other reasons, for my digestion, especially when I'm eating. But I wouldn't necessarily try to do anything with the water, go for more alkaline or acidic water. Just just get a high quality water, and whatever that comes out to, I think you're going to be fine. There's a lot of false data in that area. Thanks, Gina. Hey, Connie, you're from California. You had a question about intermittent fasting. Connie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it's early in sunny California.
Yeah,
It's
I can
only
imagine.
6:17. Yes, but I do have a question about that Bulletproof Coffee that
Yeah.
you had in one of the videos.
Uh-huh.
So you said that to replace butter and coconut oil with half and half. Are you saying that because I thought we were supposed to be eating more fat to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying to replace that when you have achieved your goal weight? Is that what it is? Or I got confused there for a while.
I'm glad you brought that up, Connie. I just want to clarify that. But here's the only data about it. I actually think the Bulletproof Coffee is a good idea because you're adding butter or coconut oil to the coffee and you're drinking in the morning, right? And it satisfies you the whole morning. I think that's totally fine. But interesting, if someone has a real slow metabolism and they're not losing as much weight and they need to speed things up, what I might do is have them not add the fat to the coffee, because no matter what you consume as far as food, not drink, typically like coffee, but just when you start adding fat, even if you add fat, there is a stimulation of the digestive hormones, which will spike some insulin. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit, which then it's almost like having a meal, somewhat of a small meal. So if we want to just improve things, why don't we just drink the coffee with a little half and half, if you need to add some cream at all, and not necessarily add the fat if you want to just tweak it a little bit and speed things up a little bit more. But for most people, they don't have to worry about it. They will still lose weight. But it was a minor point in that, you know, if I wanted to change something to improve something, you can probably cut out some fat there and not necessarily have that as a meal and help you lose weight more. That's all. That's what I was talking about. All right? Thanks for calling. Hey, listen, Raquel, you're from California as well. You had a question about warfarin and the ketogenic diet.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call, Dr.
Sure.
Berg. My mom is on warfarin, and I totally agree with you. I did do my research, and it is rat poison, and I'm very, very worried. But the good news is that I saw a lot of things that she could do in the ketogenic diet. But my question to you is, do you think she'll still be able to be on the warfarin even if she's on the ketogenic diet, or should I?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Good
I just
question.
want her on this warfarin.
Good question. It's always like a question about, you know, one thing I don't do is I don't cross the line and tell people to come off their medication, because that goes against the law. So I always give you the information, do your research, you decide what you want to do with your medication. But here's the data on the warfarin. I did do a video on it, and you can look it up. And I give you a whole list of alternative vegetables that you can do to plug in larger quantities to be able to do the ketogenic diet. You just can't do necessarily the kale or even the wheatgrass juice powder, because there's a lot of vitamin K in there. So with your mom, I would probably, you know, add the correct vegetables that are low vitamin K and see how she does in that, and continue to take the medication, and then decide if you want to find some alternative way to lessen blood clots or clotting factors and that type of thing. So that's what I would do. But I wouldn't necessarily tell you to come off that medication. All right? Thanks for calling. Hey, Claudia, you are from Kansas City. You had a question about rosacea. Claudia, are you there? Okay, Claudia, I'm going to put you on hold and I'll come back to you. Hey, Hazel, you're from Los Angeles. You had a question about shoe lift for uneven legs.
Correct, doctor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Hi. Yes, doctor, my condition is I do have a hip dysplasia.
Okay.
And I saw your video actually for shoe lift, so I'm not sure if you would recommend that for my condition. That's my first question, and doctor, if I can already ask you for my second question. The glutathione also is, I heard that it's a high, it's good, for antioxidant for the body.
What did you
I'm
say?
not sure if you, glutathione.
Oh, glutathione, yeah, glutathione.
Yeah. So if that's my second question, if you could answer those two questions for me, if that is the glutathione, if you would recommend that, and what's the dosage, if you could answer my question.
Okay, well, let me just start with the glutathione. That's like an antioxidant on steroids. I mean, it's one of the most powerful antioxidants. It helps the liver. It helps you detoxify. It's wonderful. It's in all the cruciferous vegetables. It helps phase 1, phase 2 detoxification, so it gets rid of poisons. It's a great healer. It's awesome. I mean, I wouldn't tell you not to take it as a supplement. I think it's awesome, but you can also get it from cruciferous vegetables. Now, as far as the shoe lift goes, if you have hip dysplasia and you have an anatomical short leg, which means it's short not because your hip is raised or not, you just have an actual short leg. Most people that have a short leg don't really have a short leg. They have an imbalance of muscles and the pelvis is off, so it appears to be short when they're laying down. So the best way to do this is to have you take an x-ray standing and look at the top of the hip, the crest of your hips, okay? And usually with people that have a real short leg, you're going to see the pelvis is going to drop down on the short leg. So that's where you want to put the heel lift. Because here's the thing. If your leg is short on one side, because let's say it's guarding on your hip and it's drawing up and your hip is high, and you accidentally put the heel lift in the short leg, which is the high hip, guess what's going to happen? You're going to drive the hip higher. So really you want to base the heel lift not on the short leg, but on what's going on with your hip, on your pelvis, okay? So take the hip that's short, or actually that's going down, and then put the lift on that side, okay?
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have another question. It's called Marwesh from Pakistan. You had a question on metformin. Go ahead.
I had a question, yes. I was wondering what you think about it for insulin resistance and a metabolic syndrome and weight loss. And I also was wondering if the condition of, hirsutism, where you have excess facial hair, etc., because of that raised insulin, is that reversible?
Okay, good.
With weight loss, if you lose enough weight and you get healthy.
Good question. So, so she wanted to know what about metformin. Metformin is the medication that they give people for diabetes type 2. It also helps insulin resistance because it increases the receptor for insulin, so it makes insulin work better. Insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, which is very similar, or the same thing, means that insulin is not going into the cell, even though it's being produced. So the cell is blocking insulin, so thereby causing the pancreas to produce more insulin, but it's not. It's like you have too much insulin, but it's not working. So metformin makes the receptor receive insulin more, okay? Now the problem with that is doing it chemically, it's doing it artificially, and it does have side effects. And they don't correct the real reason why you have insulin resistance in the first place. And by the way, insulin resistance will cause insulin to spike more because the pancreas is trying to cram it in there more, and then that will convert to androgens and cause more facial hair. So you're asking me, can that be reversed? Oh, I see it reversed all the time. But you got to get to the cause. So a lot of my videos are based on improving your diet to lower insulin and to help improve the receptor sites naturally. So I would watch more of the videos, get on a ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, and watch what happens to your insulin resistance. You're going to probably find a huge improvement with that, and the need for metformin will go down, 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 down. And my thought, if you're on metformin, what I would do is I would get with your doctor, get on the eating plan, do intermittent fasting, and then what will happen is your blood sugars will become normal, 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 and if you're still taking metformin, the problem is your blood sugars are going to go even lower. We don't want that. So you would want to then get your doctor to back you off that medication slowly so you can take less and less and create the same effect so your blood sugars become normal. A big concern in the medical community is about people having their blood sugars too low. Well, then why don't we just take less medication? Because the whole purpose of insulin and metformin is to lower blood sugars. So why would we be concerned with being low? Why don't we just take less medication so we don't have it act like a sledgehammer and drive it too low? So that's pretty much what I would do. And I think that brings up a really good point with my release of the book right here. I'm going to just talk about my book for a minute. This is the new release. It's finally out and it's available after all these years. Okay. Now, this is an upgrade from the 7 Principles of Fat Burning. It's called my New Body Type Guide. And in this book, I spent about 1,000 hours to correct all the little details that were outdated, so to speak, in the first version. There's 19 chapters. I think there's like 379 pages, 156 images. When I read a book, the first thing I do is, does it have any pictures? Nope. Okay, next. I like pictures. I like visuals. It has some real unique, interesting new chapters and data on basically running your body on actual fat fuel. Now, in the first book, I have this definition, and I want to just cover this because this will be related to your question, of what the definition of food is. I want to read this. Food is that which is eaten to sustain life, provide energy, and promote the growth and repair of tissues, nourishment. It comes from the Old English word which means nourishment. So really, food is a combination of providing energy and nourishment. So we need it for fuel, and we need it for nutrients. So I want to clarify that. So you want to make sure you get all your nutrients from food. So that's what this is really about. But also we want to make sure you're getting your fuel. But most people think that you need to get your fuel from carbohydrates. No, 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 no. When you run your body on carbohydrates, you're susceptible to the highs and lows. And you only have a short little tank of stored sugar, which is called glycogen. You don't have a lot of stored sugar. So as soon as that's depleted, guess what? You're going to crave sweets. You're going to be hungry. So this book is about getting your body healthy enough so you can then switch your body over to fat fuel. Now, what's really cool about that is that when you tap into fat fuel, your hunger goes down, your cravings go down, and then, I mean, every week I release another several testimonials on people who are doing this with their hunger goes down. They're never going to go back to the same old, same old. So we want to have you establish a long-term healthy eating plan that you can sustain and feel better as you're doing it and not struggle and lose weight and look good in your clothes. But you have to be able to switch your fuel and know how to do that. So when you're burning fat fuel, you're tapping into the actual fat so you can go a lot longer with having to eat because you're using your own body as your meal. So that's what this is about. It has a completely new eating plan. It's a combination of new strategies by adding in healthy ketosis, intermittent fasting with the body types, but I made it really easy. I also talk about a lot more on insulin resistance, and then metformin. It has a full glossary. It has a resource section. It has a new chapter on pleasure foods, better recipes. So I'm really happy with this book. Right now, it's really only available on my website. And as a little bit of a special, what I'm doing is I'm adding another companion book to this book, and I'm giving people at no cost. This is a book that's a new one called It's Not Lose Weight to Get Healthy, It's Get Healthy to Lose Weight. And this is the companion guide. So check this out. It's all pictures, okay? And it gives you pictures of the food amounts and the meals. Because what happens when you do a ketogenic diet, the question is, okay, what is 75% fat? What does that look like? What is 20% protein? What is 5% carbohydrates? Now, when you go to 2 meals a day, what will that look like compared to 3 meals a day? I have all those pictures in here. So this is meant as a summary to this. It's a quick read. There's only like 58 pages. You can quickly get through this in an hour. And if you get the book, I throw this in there. I will send it to you as well. So I'm really happy with this one too, but it's that way it'll get you started, and you can fill in the details with this book right here. So you can get it on the website. I put a link down below. I just wanted to plug my book because I have, it's finally released, and today is the release date. All right? Okay, cool. So now the next question I'm going to get to Elizabeth. You're from Connecticut. You're suffering from GERD, Epstein-Barr, and you have another question, I guess, about apple cider vinegar, right?
Yes. Hi, how are you? Thanks for
Great.
taking my call.
Sure.
I've been suffering with ulcerative proctitis for probably 3 years. I have acid reflux, heart palpitations, and recently discovered your videos, thank God. Also anemic, which makes complete sense because if I'm not digesting food properly, then I'm not getting nutrients. And my question is, if I am able to fix my non-acid stomach, will that eventually help with my proctitis? Because I also have allergic reactions when I eat carbohydrates. I have asthmatic reaction, headaches, all the runs the gamut. So I guess my question is, will one help the other?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what you have to realize is it's almost impossible to even have an allergy and be allergic if your pH is correct. Now, given the fact that you have ulcers and GERD and acid reflux, that tells me right there that your stomach pH is not correct because it's irritated. There's an ulcer. So how are you going to be able to have your pH correct? So unfortunately, it's hard to be able to go right into the apple cider vinegar at this point because that could aggravate the sensitivity of the lining of the stomach or the ulcer. So what you have to do for maybe several months is do the wheatgrass juice powder on an empty stomach, maybe 3 times a day. It's great properties for helping support healthy skin on the internal. So it supports healthy internal skin. So you can take that to help support that over a period of time. And then, once you're better, start testing the waters, adding the apple cider vinegar in there. So now we can finally acidify the stomach. That's what we want to do. So the valve on the top of the stomach can close so there's no more acid coming out. Then watch what happens to the immune system. Now it can work correctly. Okay? And also I noticed you have Epstein-Barr. So, excuse me. That will that's a virus. It can help. It can go into remission a lot better when the pH is correct and when your body is healthier. So I think you're on the right track, and I think there's a lot of good things that can happen in the future. It's just you're gonna have to kind of do a pre-step with kind of supporting the internal lining of the stomach first. Okay, and I would use apple cider vinegar for that. Okay, great. So good question, Jerry. You had a question about Atlanta. You're from Atlanta. You had a question about type 1 diabetes with lupus, with hot flashes.
Yes. Okay, so I've been diabetic for 36 years and I also have lupus. So I'm having hot flashes at nighttime for some reason. I also had some stents put in my heart. That's the only problems I've had so far. But I don't know exactly what I can take for the hot flashes because they won't put me on any type of medicine for it. So trying to figure out what can I take at this point.
Okay, so the first thing you want to do, Jerry, is get the eating correct. Watch the videos. I would definitely get the resource books to kind of fall back on so you have the complete data. So you're not just trying it, because you do have a combination of type 1 diabetes for a long time. So that just complicates everything, and it's harder to heal when you're diabetic because you have a lot more inflammation. Now, as far as the hot flashes go, one of the remedies that I use for that is called Estrogen Balance, which helps to balance the estrogen. If the hot flashes are really, really bad, I would use my adrenal fatigue formula because that is very powerful for the adrenals, which are a backup organ to the ovaries. So during menopause, when your ovaries go in retirement, well, the adrenals have to back up those hormones with estrogen. So If the adrenal glands are weak going into menopause, which you have lupus, so that's autoimmune, so we know the adrenal glands are probably weak, you might want to support the healthy adrenal glands to be able to support that up so it can back up the amount of estrogen you need to kind of, so you don't have hot flashes. So I would do the estrogen balance, and then to put the icing on the cake, I shouldn't mention cake to a diabetic, but then you would want to add the adrenal fatigue formula if you need it right before bed. And I think that should give you some results. Hey, Renee, you're from Oklahoma. Go ahead. You had a question about your gut bacteria.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, yeah, congratulations on your new book.
Thanks. I'm really excited about it.
I like to imagine my husband and I, we just started you about a month ago. I've got some really big issues. I've had shingles outbreak since I was 29 years old. Most people don't get those until they're 50. And I'm the poster child for the fat American diet. Growing up, poor in Oklahoma, we stayed when we had soda pop with the trees. And so, we grew up drinking soda pop instead of water. So my kidneys were taking a real beating. And then a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with H. pylori, the bacteria that lines the stomach. Mine was so bad it was in my large intestine. That's how long I'd had it. One of the treatments for it, they put me on Pepto-Bismol tablets, or 2 tablets 4 times a day to take the iron out of the food. Well, if you take the iron out of the food for the bacteria, you're taking the iron out of the food for me. Right? So they made me anemic deliberately. And then they put me on psyllium just so I could have bowel movement. And I'm just like, this is nuts, and I'm not doing it. But in the meantime, I still have, I'm fairly certain that I'm still, I have the H. pylori.
Yeah.
I'm still breaking out with shingles every other month, and it seems to go, I break out every month, but I also have polycystic ovarian disease on the left side. So every other month, I'm developing these huge cysts on this left ovary. They're just, oh my God.
Wow.
My question is there any hope for me, or am I just pretty much on the downhill slope here?
Well, we'll just have to take you in the back there and just recycle your body, give you a new body. We have some spare ones in the back. They're made out of plastic there. But
I know.
no, I think there is hope, but I think with you, I think the best thing to do is just jump on my membership site, because I have like a lot more help with people that have additional body problems. Like, for example, there's one chapter in the book that talks about how to improve all these other body problems to be able to get to the weight loss. And that's where you're at. I think the membership site would be helpful, but just to give you some quick tips, what I would do, H. pylori is a condition where you have this microbe that's very resilient and just won't die easily, so you have to take all these treatments and things. But most people have H. pylori in their system, but it's not activated. So the fact that you have activated and you have shingles, which is virus, tells me that your immune system has been stressed, and that brings me to the question of your adrenals. Probably you need to have some adrenal weaknesses that you need to support to build up the adrenal ultimately to put these things back in remission. So it's really about, it's not even a supplement, it's like you have to just really work on building the core adrenal and pull you out of that stress mode, which would include improving your sleep, your environment, all these things. But in the meantime, as far as gut bacteria, believe it or not, I think one of the best things you can do right now, which would be equivalent to taking 10 bottles of probiotics, is to take sauerkraut. Get sauerkraut and start consuming 1 cup a day. That will give you so much friendly bacteria. I mean, it would really, really help you. As far as H. pylori, I would start taking like some type of apple cider vinegar pills and start acidifying the stomach. That will help. I actually created a video on H. pylori you can watch on YouTube that gives you more details. But those are the 2 things I would do. And then watch my video on shingles, because I show you a technique to at least give you some relief with shingles by working on the opposite side. Usually it's a unilateral. It's usually on one side where it affects the nerve root on one side. You can work on the other side to greatly improve the intensity. But the main thing you probably have to work on is the adrenal, and I have a lot of videos on that. But yes, there is hope. You can be helped. but let's start with the eating plan first. Okay, Renee? Hey, Claudia, you're from Kansas City. I just want to see if you're on yet. I tried to catch you before. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. You had a question about rosacea.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I have been suffering from rosacea for, I would say, the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to different dermatologists, and what they have given me is antibiotics to take, and then, you know, just the cream to put on. I just know enough that that's not going to help me, so I haven't taken the antibiotics or used the cream really.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I figure there is something that is causing it, and I just haven't had anybody help me figure out what that is.
Okay. So I have a video on it. You could watch it. But you have broken blood vessels that are making this red appearance. It's usually an adrenal symptom. But the main thing that you want to support is the vitamin C complex. It's not from a synthetic, so get a food-based vitamin C. Believe it or not, I don't know if you realize what the food that's highest in vitamin C is really high-quality sauerkraut. And it's the second person I just recommended this to, but sauerkraut, the microbes make the vitamin C. It's not even the vitamin C in the cabbage. It's in the microbes make it, and you get this you can have up to 700 milligrams of vitamin C per cup. So that's really good with vitamin C to help strengthen capillaries, which if I were you, that's what I would be consuming. Bell peppers, I would be consuming a lot of that, and probably a food-based vitamin C complex, which will also help the adrenals too. So that's really what you need to start focusing on. But if you have rosacea and it's been there for a while, it does take some time to help support that or to improve that. So stick with that, watch my video on rosacea, but that would be the main thing to focus on, to strengthen the capillaries, because without vitamin C, you get weakness within the capillaries and you get these spider veins, rosacea, and all sorts of issues with the vascular system. Hey, Christina, you're from Orlando. You had a question about the period being heavy, right?
Yes, I'm 27, and I have the cyst on my ovaries, that syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I go to the dermatologist, they always recommend birth control, but I don't want to take that. So I was just wondering if there's anything that I can do. I mean, the first 3 days, I can barely go to work.
Wow. Did you say you have polycystic ovarian or just cyst on the ovaries?
Yeah, the polycystic,
polycystic, okay.
syndrome, or yes.
Well, just so funny that you asked that. That's actually, I have a whole chapter on polycystic ovarian. It's actually a section in the chapter, and that really has to do with high levels of insulin, okay? Insulin converts to androgens that'll throw off your cycle. So I think the best thing for you to do is jump right into a combination of the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. That's going to drop the insulin, that's going to drop the androgens, it's going to help your cycle, it's going to help inflammation. And then make sure when you do that, you follow the ovary body type program. Why? Because the ovaries are the weakness, and the ovary, supporting the ovary with certain nutrients and food and tweaking of the eating plan will just take it to the next level. For example, you got to be careful with GMO that's hidden in the food supply. You have to be careful doing commercial foods, especially chicken, turkey, that's not organic, because you're going to get that estrogen because you're already probably estrogen dominant, but now you have like high levels of androgen. So I would start with the foundation rather than just take a supplement. Like I have a supplement called Estrogen Balance, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you work on these other things first, because chances are that will probably correct it and you won't need to take any supplements or specifically for that. All right? Hey, Sandy, you're from Atlanta. Go ahead, you're on the air. You had right shoulder pain and adrenal fatigue. Sandy, are you there? Sandy, I'll come back to you, okay? All right, let's talk to someone from Rafine from Germany. Your dad's on dialysis with an overactive thyroid. Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm going to come back to you because we're having a little technical difficulties. So let's just go right to the board. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple things right here. And I wanted to mention something about the simplicity of hormones and in relationship to how they really work, so a principle behind hormones. So let's see, let's take the pancreas, for example. Here's the pancreas. And so many people have problems with the pancreas and don't know it, and it really has to do with producing too much insulin. I would say, and this is probably my guess, 80% of the population has a problem with insulin resistance, but it doesn't show up on the blood test yet because it's subclinical. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So we have the pancreas, and then we have the cell. Okay, this is the cell. And let me just get a better marker here. Okay, so we have the cell right here in the pancreas. So we have this hormone called insulin. Insulin is made by the pancreas. It connects to the cell. The purpose of insulin is a couple things: to feed the cell, to store sugar, and then anything in excess, it converts to fat. So as soon as this little key, insulin, connects, it opens the door to allow fuel to go in the cell. Okay? So now, this message has been completed. So the cell sends a signal back to the pancreas saying, okay, you can turn it off now because I actually perform my function. So we have this feedback loop. All hormones are on a feedback loop. This is the on switch, and this is the off switch. So they're constantly communicating, just like I'm communicating to you, but of course I can't see you. But if you were in the room, you would nod your head, you would acknowledge me, and then we can go back and forth. But if you ignored me, I'd keep talking to you forever. So until finally you got it, until it sunk in. But the point is we have this on, off, and everything is nice and fine, right, in the pancreas. So that's normally what's supposed to happen. But the average person consumes 31 teaspoons of sugar a day, and that's what triggers insulin. 31 teaspoons a day. Normally our body only needs like a little less than 1 teaspoon, but you can get that from protein and other foods. You don't even need to eat sugar. So when you start consuming 31 teaspoons of sugar every single day, I'm not saying you're doing it, but the average American, that throws off everything. Because now what happens, your body's going to go, no, that's pretty toxic. I can't handle that. Let's get rid of that. Let's block it. So your body starts protecting it by developing a shield. That's called insulin resistance. It's going to block that. So now what will happen is your cells will you no longer absorb fuel. So what's going to happen inside the cell is we're not going to get this feedback loop. There's no more off switch. Okay? So now the pancreas is like, hello, you're not listening to me. So it starts producing more and more and more insulin to the point where it'll produce up to 5 to 7 times more insulin than a normal person. 5 to 7 times more insulin. Because it's trying to connect here. So now we have a situation, we have all this extra insulin, but it doesn't work. So we have tons of insulin. Now the problem with that is we have a situation now which will, because there's so much insulin, it might not show up in a blood test. So you do a fasting glucose test and everything is normal. So you think you're fine, but you have all the symptoms of insulin resistance. You get tired after you eat. You crave carbohydrates. Why? Because the cells are starving. Like you ever eat something and then right after you eat, like you eating, you feel like you're not satisfied? Like you need a little something sweet? Well, what is your body trying to do? It's trying to tell you to eat something sweet, trigger more insulin, so we can try to cram more fuel into the cell. So if you don't feel satisfied after you eat, or you get tired after you eat, or you get brain fog, just in general, memory problems, bladder issues. These are all just common symptoms. Weakness. These are all just common symptoms with insulin resistance that we know you have it. But don't just go by a blood test, a fasting glucose test, because if that shows up being a problem, that's like you're going right into diabetes. So this is kind of pre-diabetes, which is high levels of sugar in the blood, means that you're going right into diabetes. This is more advanced, but this doesn't show up sometimes for years. So you have to have insulin resistance for like 10 years before you become a diabetic. Does that make sense? So the point is that I think it's important to understand there's a feedback loop and the body's making too much insulin. And this is probably the most common problem that people have that they don't even know they have because it doesn't show up on a blood test. It's subclinical. That means it's below your awareness. It's below any test, but you have these symptoms. And so, I mean, doctors will say, well, it's probably, it's all subjective. It's not based on an objective test. So here, take some Prozac, right? But the point is, these are real symptoms, and you can kind of use these as clues. And the biggest thing is you got this belly. So if you have a belly, that means you have too much insulin. So the best test to do, if you really wanted to figure this out objectively, is do a fasting insulin test. A fasting insulin test. And that way you can detect if you have the subclinical insulin resistance, and then which is going to turn into a blood sugar problem down the road. But I'm not going to wait until I get diabetes. I'm going to want to prevent it early on. So you want to start that by avoiding the sugar, but there's other things that will trigger insulin too, and that would be high amounts of protein, low-fat protein, believe it or not, low-fat protein, like lean protein versus fatty protein. And then we also have high stress will do it, and eating in general. So these are all just really important points that I wanted to bring up because you might say, well, I'm on a low carbohydrate diet, but you're under massive amounts of stress. You're not sleeping, and you're eating 6 meals a day, and you're grazing at night. Even though it's healthy food, even though it's like maybe nuts or something like that, you're still going to have an insulin spike. So that's why I'm just like digging home this one principle because so many people have it, and it's so easy to correct. So what you do is you do 3 meals a day. Okay, and again, I talk about this every single week because some people are new and they haven't heard this before. 3 meals a day, no snacks, okay? No snacks. Add more fat to the meal so you can go longer without eating. Very important. And then eventually you're not going to be hungry in the morning. If you're not hungry in the morning, start shifting the breakfast from 8 to 9 o'clock. And then from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, till eventually it's 11 to 12. Now you're only eating 2 meals a day. You're not cutting calories, you're having a big meal, but the point is that you're actually able to spike insulin less because you're eating less. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, so let's go back here and plug myself in here. All right. So, okay, I'm back. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2. All right, good. So I'm going to let these calls kind of pop in here. I think we have Brett. Hey, Brett, you're on the air. You're from Idaho. I'm sorry. You had a question about fat-soluble toxins, right?
Yes, I do. I was wondering specifically. I'm part of the Smart Detox Protocol Facebook group, and they talk about using niacin to detoxify fat-soluble toxins. It's also known as the Hubbard Protocol. And it's my understanding that toxins are mostly stored in the fat, and it's very difficult to get rid of, but that niacin will actually, according to Dr. Mercola and many other experts, will actually release the toxins from the fat, and then you can get in the sauna and sweat out those toxins. And I'm wondering if you've heard of that protocol, the Smart Detox Protocol, if you've heard of that, if you're familiar with that, or what your thoughts are on the toxins in the fat and using niacin in the sauna as a detox method.
Yeah, the Hubbard protocol it should be done supervised, and there's several places around the country. It's one of the best detoxifying programs, drug rehab programs on the planet. I've done it 3 times already. It's intense. It's the ultimate Roto-Rooter on steroids because it will pull out all sorts of old toxins and things you're exposed to long ago. But the niacin is specifically used to also pull out, believe it or not, even radiation. They use that in some of the detox programs from people that were close to Chernobyl that got exposed to radiation, and they found it to be very, very effective. I remember doing it, and like I remember one day I come out of the sauna and I have a pattern of a t-shirt, like I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm not even wearing it, it's the winter. And I have this like this redness, almost like you can see the sunburn. And the next few days I have a different pattern of sunburn. It's like really wild. So it's a great way to, it's the ultimate detox program because the amount of chemicals that are, your body's like a human sponge. So it pulls in these chemicals. And the problem is to do a regular detox where you're taking things and pushing them out to the liver. All you're going to do is dump these poisons through the blood. The cool thing about what you're talking about is that you're heating your body, you're taking oils, and you're doing this correctly with certain vitamins that push the toxins from the bloodstream right out through the skin so it doesn't recirculate. Okay, so you wipe it off your skin, you're like, what the heck? Like I remember one time coming out of the sauna and it was like, it smelled like secondhand smoke. My father used to smoke and that's probably where it came from. But I mean, I never smoked. So that was stored in my body. So yeah, I highly recommend it. But you want to make sure you find a place that's supervised. And if someone is on drugs, for example, they would want to go through what's called the Narconon program, which is awesome, awesome. It's one of the most successful drug rehab programs using the sauna. Hey, thanks for your call, Brett. So then we have another question from Virginia. It's Aisha, is that your name?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Berg. Thank
Sure.
you very much for picking up my phone call. I really admire you a lot. I need to talk about my 18-year-old son. He has some issues that he gets, he's tired most of the time, and that's how he's been since childhood. And even if he goes out to play, like, for example, soccer and basketball and this and that with other friends, and then if he can't sleep during nighttime, fall asleep so quickly, and he tends to wake up a lot. And then he feels he stays tired and very exhausted, and he doesn't want to get up, doesn't want to do anything, and so he develops temperature, and his body feels warm, and but if I put thermometer on to check, I can't see. It doesn't show as much, but his body is warm.
Okay.
And also his feet stay cold. He wears, during summertime, June, July, 24 hours a day, he would have his socks on. And if I touch his feet, the feet would be very, very cold.
Okay, good. So let me talk about that. Let me just talk about that. So this is just another perfect example of someone that has fatigue, sleeping problems, not as active. He's a kid. He's 18 years old. So that doesn't make sense, right? Cold feet, he has warm body temperature. Here's the mistake that a lot of people will make. They'll go to the vitamin store and they start taking different vitamins for each individual symptom. Something like this he'd probably really benefit from maybe one of our evaluations to get all his data and then correlate it to the one cause that most people have. And it's different for everyone. So with him, I would say he would need to be evaluated because, for example, fatigue could come from 8 different things. So the most obvious is the sleep, but then we got to find out what's affecting his sleep, rather than just giving a sleeping pill and thinking that's going to handle it. The cold feet could also be either a thyroid issue, or it could be circulation or anemia, could be immune system. But he's 18 years old, so it's illogical. So I would call the office, get an evaluation, I don't have a clinic, but we do an online evaluation. But in the meantime, get him on the basic things that I'm recommending in all the videos. Get him on the eating plan, intermittent fasting right away, and just see how many problems will be corrected from fixing something so foundational. I almost don't like to recommend supplements until I get the eating thing squared away, because there's so many things that could be cleared out just from that alone. But thanks for your question. Hey, Mike, you're from Illinois. You have lower back pain.
Yes. I had a niece with Chiari syndrome. I was wondering if there was anything other than surgery that you could suggest.
Did you say what, Facet syndrome?
Chiari syndrome?
I could barely hear you.
Chiari syndrome?
Oh, okay. Can you give me some of the symptoms you have other than pain? Is it pain going down the legs, or is it just localized to your lower back?
Okay. The pain for me is lower back and just to the right of my spine and my lower back now. What I notice is the more I eat, the more it hurts. And I was wondering if there was something that could help heal your intestines.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
So do you have constipation?
No, but I do have a problem where it hurts really bad before I have a stool.
Okay. So you have in your intestine.
The back pain does, and then only at nighttime.
Okay.
When I lay down, the other time I have pain.
Okay. So have you done any type of intermittent fasting or ketosis yet?
I slightly, and it does help.
Okay.
That's why I was wondering if do I have to do it for a long time? How long does it take to heal that area of the stomach?
Yeah. Here's what I would do. I would plug into the eating plan that I'm recommending, because there's so many nerves that can refer from the large intestine to the lower back, and you'll be working on the lower back to the next 10 years and no change. But for example, when you have the large intestine as it comes across down into the sigmoid colon, and then that's probably where you're feeling the pain at night. So when you do intermittent fasting, it takes a huge stress off the digestive system, and it allows your digestion to complete a whole cycle of eating without having to constantly cram more stress, especially for the gallbladder and the amount of bile that's released from the gallbladder that you need to lubricate the colon. So if you were to do 3 meals a day, no snacking, and then go to 2 meals a day, I would suspect, number one, inflammation is going to go way down throughout the whole body. Rather than treat a certain condition, that would be good. And also your gallbladder will concentrate so much better to the point where you'll get a much more complete elimination, more lubrication, and more absorption of all the nutrients, especially the fat-soluble ones that are responsible for causing inflammation in the first place. So when people are sort of doing the diet, I would say jump in, do it for a month, see if it helps you. I think it will, and then you can decide what to do from there. But that's what I would recommend, Mike. So thank you so much for calling. Hey, you guys, I want to thank you guys for, again, another successful show. I'm going to be doing these every Friday. This next week, I'll probably do it on a slightly different day, so stay tuned. I'll send you a video on that. In the meantime, you can start watching my videos. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.